Hello and welcome to another Left in Japan episode of GameSack. We're going to start out by looking at the Sharp Twin Famicom, which itself was left in Japan, just like the Nintendo Disk System.
Yes, and this is a great piece of machinery that should have been brought out of the country. I think it's totally awesome.
Yeah,
along with the Disk System.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the Sharp Twin Famicom. The Twin Famicom was released by Sharp in Japan in 1986. It combined the regular Famicom, which we all know is a Japanese version of the Nintendo Entertainment System, as well as the Famicom disk drive, which never saw official release outside of Japan. So, what is a Famicom disk drive? Think of it like a Sega CD, except that it plays proprietary floppy disks instead of CDs, the loading times are much longer, and it hooks to a Famicom instead of a Genesis. The floppy disk stored 64 kilobytes of data per side for a total of 1 mega power per disk. Simply unbelievable, at least it was for the time. This allowed for much bigger and more involving games at the time, and even let you save your progress instead of using a pesky password. As with the original Famicom, the controllers were hardwired to the console itself with a generous cord that was nearly 2 feet long. Controller 2 even had a microphone built in for certain games that used that sort of thing. The system even had an accessory port so you could hook up your light gun or whatnot. The sound quality is a bit more muffled compared to a regular Famicom or even an NES due to some sort of filter applied internally. Check it out. The disk drive also features some extra FM-based sound channels that some games use. Graphically, the system looks great, and it was the first Famicom system to offer composite video built in. To play disc games, you must flip this switch to lock the cartridges out. Let's check out some of these games. Yeah, some of them have been released in the US, but these disc versions offer some differences. The first disc we're going to look at is Castlevania. Now, as far as I can tell, this game is mostly identical to the US cartridge version. Added is an area to input your name and save your progress, not that it's really necessary in a game like this. However, it's still a great game, but as an added bonus, you can now experience loading times and side switching. Who wouldn't want that? So throw away your instantly loading cartridge and track this version down. Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, or Dracula 2 Nori no Fun, or something like that as it's called in Japan, definitely benefits from being a disc game, for the most part. Firstly, you can save your progress to a disc instead of typing in a dumb old password. This game's quite long, so it's very beneficial. However, the game is in Japanese, and that can kind of hinder your progress. Also, the sound uses the extra channels built into the Twin Famicom or Famicom disk drive, so it sounds a bit different than what we're used to in the US. And the loading times suck. Let's exit the town here. Oh man, this is going to be great. I'm sure whatever's loading is going to be an awesome level. Oh cool, I'll just kill these guys. Damn it! Okay, I won't be going that way again. Here's Kid Icarus. Now, besides saving your progress, I think this game's identical to the US cartridge version. I don't really know because I've never really played this game much. I enjoy the music a lot, but that's really about as far as my interest ever got with Kid Icarus. It's not a bad game, but I just don't feel like I've been missing out. Ah, the original release of The Legend of Zelda. As you can probably imagine, being able to save your game here would be extremely beneficial. Well, it is. Just be careful of that kill mode, which I assume erases your saves. This game also takes some advantage of the extra sound chip. Now supposedly there's a part in this game which uses the microphone on controller too, but I haven't seen it yet. But other than this, it's the Zelda you know and love, with lots of Japanese text. And here's Metroid. Once again, as you've already guessed, the main advantage here is being able to save your progress instead of writing down a password. But that extra time you save is going to be spent waiting for the disc to load. I think this game uses that extra sound chip a little as well. It's really hard to tell for me. I'm sure hardcore Metroid fans will be able to tell right away. And the final game we're going to show for the Famicom Disk System is Bio Miracle Bokute Upa, or something like that, by Konami. This game didn't see a release outside of Japan, so it's actually fitting for this episode. You play as a baby and you can inflate enemies with your rattle, which makes them float away. You can also use these enemies as platforms or even weapons if need be. All of the visuals are pretty good. The game is full of cute things that babies love, such as candy and cake. World 1-2 bears more than a passing resemblance to Dig Dug, which I thought was kind of cool. World 2-2 submerges our hero infant in at least 300 feet of water without even any kind of breathing apparatus. Good luck, little baby. The music is upbeat and catchy, though I'm not sure if it takes advantage of that extra sound chip or not. It sounds like the plain old NES to me. Now you'd think a game that stars a baby would be super easy, but it's not. You've got to use some strategy in the stages and the boss fights in order to progress. Overall, I'd say the game is pretty fun and definitely challenging. I guess nobody in the West wanted to play a game starring a baby, but this game did get released on the Wii's Virtual Console. It's listed as an import. Okay, and that was a look at the Sharp Twin Famicom.
I'm a little upset, Joe, because that should have been my segment, I think. I mean, it's a Nintendo.
But I'm the hardware guy. I know about hardware. You don't know.
Well, that's
about
true,
hardware.
but I still think I should have done it since it's Nintendo. Oh well. I mean, well, maybe if we do the Sega Mark III, I'll get to talk about that or something.
Okay. Anyway, we've got lots of other games to talk about in this episode that were left in Japan, and well, I guess it should be fair that you kick it off.
Let's do that.
Okay.
I've got a great. Well, it's a pretty good game. Let's take a look at it.
Okay, cool.
Mickey no Tokyo Dybukan is a Mickey Mouse game for the Super Famicom by Tomy. It's an interesting take on platforming. Mickey uses balloons as weapons and also to help him navigate the many challenges this game offers. There are two types of balloons, gas and water. Water balloons are used to kill enemies and also to trampoline to higher platforms. Gas balloons are used to float over gaps or enemies. The gas balloon is good, but it takes a bit of effort to control. And if you don't know how to use it, it'll send you flying across the screen, usually into an enemy or over a hole in the ground. These balloons are the only thing you have to get through this game, and you're going to need all of your skills because this game is tough. Fortunately, Mickey has an unlimited supply of gas and water to help keep filling these balloons. Where the hell's he getting it all from? Be sure to open treasure chests along the way to help you with extra lives and continues. Graphically, the game is pleasing with tons of colors and some decent scrolling effects. There are a few fun graphical references to Disneyland itself that add a really nice touch. The music is pretty good. The melodies are enjoyable, but sometimes they can grate on your ears with a blaring trumpet sound. I do enjoy this game as some of the levels are really well designed and will really challenge your ability to control your balloons. If you don't have enough Disney games in your collection, then I'd definitely recommend this game to you. I'm really surprised this didn't get a domestic release. Umihara Kawase is a fishing game for the Super Famicom. Well, it's not actually a fishing game, but your character's only weapon is a fishing line and a lure, so it's kind of like a fishing game. Basically, you have a very flexible fishing line and lure that can hook onto walls and help you navigate each level. Let me tell you, this is one strong fishing line. I'm guessing at least a 100-pound test. The line mechanic isn't as good as Super Castlevania 4's whip, but is still very good. In fact, I'd say this has the second best swinging mechanic I've played. What's really strange is that there are 57 levels in this game and a 30-minute time limit. Certain areas have multiple doors that lead to different levels, allowing you to experience more of the game than 30 minutes allows. It's quite an addictive game, really. Control of your character is tough, but once you get the hang of it, you'll feel very comfortable making the decisions about casting your line. The music is great, and I really think it fits this game well. Graphically, everything is good except for the awful backgrounds, which are just pictures that have been blown up and are really blocky and ugly. Ugh. The colors chosen for the backgrounds are also very dull. Maybe they did this on purpose to make the game's platforms and characters pop out. Another weird decision was to put all the game stats in the middle of the screen. I don't understand this, as it can be very annoying and interfere with the gameplay. It's still quite a fun game and really well made. I highly recommend it.
Gekibo, sometimes known as Photograph Boy for the PC Engine by IREM, is definitely a strange one. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the story is, but I like to think that you just got hired at the local newspaper and your boss demands that you go around town and take pictures of noteworthy events as they happen. Your town is balls off the wall crazy and there's always lots of stuff going around to take pictures of. Basically, you guide a cursor around the screen to snap photos of things that you deem worthy of being photographed. You don't have a lot of film, but you can magically earn more by taking pictures of certain things. Taking pictures also earns you points, and you need to meet a point quota for each level. Also, watch out because you need to avoid hitting things like randomly bouncing balls or flower pots that are thrown at you. You can either jump out of the way to avoid them or take pictures of them to make them disappear. If you get hit, you lose some of your film because your character is extremely clumsy. The level ends either when you reach the end or you run out of film. If you don't meet the point quota, your boss is very angry and he won't let you go to the next stage, but you do have unlimited continues. The game's really funny with some of the things that happen in the background, and there are a ton of movie and other pulp culture references. For example, you've got the car from Back to the Future, E.T., Spider-Man, The Terminator, Michael Jackson, and lots of other stuff. The game also seems very crude. For instance, there's a naked guy who flashes you in the first level, and he's actually hidden in every other level. There's also nude chicks on the beach, a naughty Statue of Liberty, interesting graffiti, and lots of violent things you need to catch as they happen. But boy, this game's really tough until you completely memorize the stage, and all of the things that you need to avoid kind of take some of the fun out of it. Still, it's an interesting game that no US publisher would ever touch.
Do-Re-Mi Fantasy by Hudson on the Super Famicom is the supposed sequel to Milon's Secret Castle. Now, I've played a lot of Milon's Secret Castle, I've even actually beat it, and the only few resemblances that game has with Do-Re-Mi Fantasy are the main character, Milon, and his bubble blower. Other than that, it's pretty much a huge stretch. Now, enough about that. Why this game was never released outside of Japan in its time is sinful, as it's quite a fun game. Milon must retrieve some musical instruments from some music hater. Each area boss holds an instrument, which you can get back after defeating them. The game is set in different worlds, with each world containing mini levels which are usually pretty short. Milon controls very well, and you won't have any problems with the platforming in this game. One cool feature that I liked was that Milon wears 3 different colors of clothes. Each color represents his life bar, if you will. Green means you have 3 hits left, blue means 2 hits, and red means that once you get hit again, your life is over. Milon's bubble wand is easy to use. If you shoot an enemy, they become encased in the bubble and you just have to touch the bubble to get rid of them. But be aware, the enemies do regenerate. Milon can also stomp on an enemy's head, but this will only stun the enemy and actually turn them into a temporary platform, so it does have a lot more use. The music is nice and I found the melodies to be very enjoyable, but sadly a lot of the levels are pretty minimalist to the point where it's almost just ambient sounds. All in all, this is one game that should have made it off the island, as it's very enjoyable. This game was released for the Wii Virtual Console, so it can be had for $9, and it's easily worth that, even if it is a digital copy. As you might be aware, Nintendo really didn't support their mouse peripheral for the SNES or Super Famicom, and what games we did get were mostly bad with a few exceptions. But here's Mario and Wario, a game completely controlled by the mouse. An interesting tidbit is that this game was designed by Game Freaks, you know, the makers of Pokemon. Anyways, you can choose from Mario, Yoshi, or Peach, but you don't actually control any of them. As you can see, Wario drops something onto their heads, making them blind. Unlike a normal person who would just take the affliction off their head, they're either unable or unwilling to do that and just walk blindly in whatever direction they're facing. You use the mouse to control a small fairy who changes the environment so that these dunces don't hurt themselves. Ultimately, they'll run into Luigi, who, usually the witless one, will take the blinder off their head. The game controls really well, and the game boards can be very challenging, but not impossible. A lot of the times the boards are much bigger than one screen. Luckily, when you pause the game, you can scroll the camera all across the screen to help plan your path. The music isn't anything great, and honestly, after playing, I can't recall any of the tunes in my head. They're just unmemorable. The game boards and characters are all super colorful, and being on the Super Famicom, they should be. This is a great game for collectors of Nintendo-released games. It's fun to play and is part of a relatively small library for the Nintendo mouse, and it can be had at a reasonable price.
Corune on a PC Engine is another so-called cute-em-up. The story is, well, I'm not sure. Some giant thing appears and makes the princess into a child or something, so you, as her pet dragon, takes off to get bloody revenge. Right away, you'll be thrown into a chaotic world with tons of stuff on screen. You can collect fruits for extra points in order to earn more lives, as well as different weapons, each of which can be powered up 3 times. You can also grab a screen-clearing bomb for those tough moments, some extra options that float around you and shoot, or even an extra item which makes you a lot smaller to help avoid getting hit by the enemy. If you've collected a weapon, you can take 1 hit, but if you get shot while using your default weapon, well, then you lose a life. If you let go of the fire button for a while, you can even build up some kind of super burn shot. The action is often so crazy, and with all of the fruit and the enemies on the screen and everything else, you just don't know what items you can collect and which will kill you. So good luck. There's lots of parallax scrolling, cartoony graphics, and great music. Everything's really fast, and the background even changes sometimes during a stage, and there's plenty of mid-bosses. If all this looks and sounds familiar, well, it should. This game is very similar to Air Zonk. In fact, you can tell the same engine was used for the graphics, sounds, and play mechanics. But this game came out before Air Zonk did, so I guess you could say Air Zonk is more like Corune. However, if you like Air Zonk, you'll certainly like this. I only have 2 real complaints about the game. The first one is that it's pretty easy. There's a stork around to give you a power-up every few seconds, so it's unlikely that you'll be using your default weapon very much. This means you'll be able to take lots and lots of hits as long as you keep grabbing a colored ball before you die. Plus, all of the fruit makes it really easy to earn extra lives. In fact, you might want to try playing it on the hard difficulty from the get-go. My second complaint is that you need to refight all of the bosses at the end before you get to the final boss. This is a huge pet peeve of mine in any game that does this. It just feels like a really cheap way to extend the game. Still, this is a great shooter, and I'm surprised it never saw a US release. Unfortunately, now it usually sells for over $200 on eBay.
Konami's Wai Wai World for the Famicom is a really fun game that sadly never made it out of the land of the rising sun. The concept is really intriguing. You start the game with Konami Man and Konami Girl. As you travel through the world, you have to rescue other Konami franchise characters that are being held captive in their respective game worlds. Once this is accomplished, that character becomes playable. So Goemon, for example, is held in Edo, Simon Belmont is held in Dracula's castle, and so on. The levels in this game aren't set up so that you can just pick one and make it through using Konami Man. You must use rescued players' abilities to help. For example, on the pirate ship rescuing Mikey from the Goonies, you need to use Simon Belmont and the reach of his whip to kill enemies on the platforms. If not, then you'll surely die as there's no room for you and the enemy on this small area. So the goal of each level is to find the key to unlock the device that each character is being held in. Some levels have boss fights to obtain the key, while others the key is just sitting there waiting to be collected. Characters control pretty well, but not as good as the games they come from. I noticed Simon's whip couldn't be used as fast as in a Castlevania game, but that's a minor complaint. I really like how being hit by enemies doesn't throw your character back or even stop their forward motion. In some instances, you can just plow through a level to get past a tough area if needed. Another really cool thing is that depending on the character you use, the music changes to that character's theme. You can change characters on the fly and the music changes just as quick. I really like this feature, even though I don't feel Simon Belmont's theme really fits while playing in the city level. Graphically, the game is good with loads of colors and some good details on enemies and characters. Overall, this is an outstanding game that you should try if you get the chance. If you can't read Japanese like me, there is a well-written fact that is priceless over on GameFAQs. Three years later, in 1991, Konami released Wai Wai World 2. This sequel changed up quite a few areas of the game. Firstly, the graphics have been changed, and a lot of the levels have forced scrolling. Characters are now super deformed and the enemies are much cuter than the first game. The game levels are pretty much chosen for you. There are a few branching paths where you can pick between two levels, but you'll ultimately end up in the same path. The music is still outstanding, but the music belongs to the stage now and not the character you're using. Speaking of characters, you can pick from a chosen set of 3 at the beginning of the game. Throughout each level, you can collect a power-up which lets you choose from one of the other characters to pick on the fly. This time around, the special character is on a timer and will revert back to Konami Man once time runs out. The baby from Biomiracle Bokute Upa is by far the best character in the game as he has the smallest hit radius and his weapon, a baby rattle, is really quick. This game isn't as good as the first game in my opinion, but it's still a quality game on its own. All right, everybody, there is another handful of great games that never left Japan.
Yeah, we're running out of them, though.
We are. I'm down to the bare minimum on my collection.
Yeah, so. but we are collectors. We still buy import games from Japan, so maybe we'll stumble across some more in the future, and if so, we'll make a Left in Japan 5.
Yeah, let us know what games are great that we should pick up if they're not absolutely insanely priced.
Yeah, if you're from the future, you probably already know if there's a Left in Japan 5 or not, but we here right now, sitting here in this room, do not know yet.
No clue.
So, anyway, thanks for watching GameSack, and we'll catch you next time. And if you're ready to shoot episode 71 of GameSack?
Well, I'm almost ready. I don't think you're ready yet.
What are you talking about?
Well,
I'm totally ready.
I'm sure you noticed that we're wearing this exact same shirt. And
dude, come on. I'm not changing my shirt. I did a little laundry this week. This is the only shirt I washed. I'm not changing my shirt.
You have to. We're going to look like idiots. And
we look like idiots anyway. And what do I care?
Well, that's true. But I'm not driving a half hour to get to my house just to change a shirt so we can have a different shirt.
It's not my problem that you live a half hour away. You're the one who decided to move to that location, not me. I'm not changing my shirt.
So I'm a Nintendo fanboy.
I'm getting into it. I'm starting to like the games.
Hello and welcome to GameSack.
And another Left in Japan episode. We're going to start with a Sharp Twin Famicom.